radiator somewhere, like under the deck or on the side of the house, and then they just circulate the glycol from the tubes into a radiator. Or some people will do a loop under their ground, like in-floor heating, but outside somewhere. I've heard of people doing it under a garden, and it's actually a warm garden apparently is better. The flat plates on the wall, and for both systems they're mounted vertically, so that reduces the accumulation of excess heat in the summer and maximizes the heat input in the winter. But if you get extra heat in the summer, the ones on the wall have a heat activated spring on the top, so they open a baffle that runs the width of the panel, and there's a vent in the bottom, and so cool air will flow in the bottom, be heated and rise out the top. And that's only allowed to happen when the temperature at the top of the panel reaches about 124 degrees Celsius. So at that temperature, the only reason the panel should reach that temperature is because you stop circulating the glycol through it. So then it will overheat and it will just vent out. So the heat that would have struck that wall and risen up into the eaves or been absorbed into the house will now strike the panel and rise up.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, so we've got basically two thermostats on his system. So this one, is it this one?
No.
That one. So that one regulates the heat coming into here, and that's adjusted by the room temperature. So if we want it to be 75 in here, the heat will keep coming in here until it hits 75. Underneath we've got it set at 68, so we'll keep heating the crawl space until the crawl space gets to 68, and that's a separate loop, right? So we basically got two loops for Brent stuff. For the flat panels, for the vacuum tube, we just have one loop going through underneath, and then the second loop, the dissipator loop, that goes under the deck for when it gets too hot. Make sense? Way more science than you expected, eh?
Yeah, and it kind of electronically controls if it's dissipating the heat or not, like through a thermostat, just opens the valve and puts it somewhere else. Okay.
It's the hot water, right? The thermostatically controlled hot water pump. Yes, sir. And you'd be?
My name is Darren.
Darren. Hi, Darren.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks. Just when you're talking, I'd never thought of this before, but and I didn't see it in this study. But the difference that what difference does it make on how far the drain water heat recovery unit is from the hot water tank?
If you look in that modeling, they have it right there.
Did you have it?
But they did two different tests. So one test, there's two ways to set these up, and there's always a debate. And now this study really, the big news of this study was which way to do it. So one way is you take this hot water and you pass it over to your hot water heater, and it sits in your hot water heater until you have your next shower, right? The other way is you connect this to the cold water tap on your hot water heater on your shower, and it hits the shower immediately. So the heat going down is immediately used. So as I said, you got 130 degree hot water and you've got your cold water coming in maybe at 60. So you need more hot water, less cold water to get to that 105 degree temperature that you want to shower with. By the water being hotter coming in, you use less hot water and more of the cold water tap, and it works. So the difference is significant. I think it said hooking this to the cold water tap on your shower was $13.85, and I think the other one, if you look at there's a chart there, I think it's about $1,100. No, just the table with the results. Yeah. So this is $11.45 if it's hooked up straight to the hot water tank, and $13.85, which is significant, right? That's 250 watts difference if it's hooked up to the hot water shower. I talked to remember that scientist I mentioned, that doctor, and after an hour and a half, he said, okay, Ron, you're having trouble with this. This is the bottom line. I've got 4 daughters. When they're showering at home, the 4th daughter always got a cold shower. Now she gets a hot shower. Simple as that. You just get way more water for the same cost, right? So
immediate payback.
Immediate payback. That's what he was trying to tell me.
So if it's hooked up to the shower, then if the hot water's coming from somewhere else, the other loop goes to the hot water tank?
Nope, this is just 2 loops to keep the pressure. Actually, this isn't the one that they tested here. That one's actually got 4 loops, 4 different loops going around. This is just My understanding is if you have your cold water wrapped around here, you lose a lot of water pressure. I don't understand that, but that's what they explained to me. By having two going through here, it reduces the amount of effect it has on water pressure. The power tube that's in that study actually has 4 loops going around. Okay, so it just again reduces the loss in water pressure.
Okay, but if it's hooked up to the cold water to your shower, the only time you get benefit from that is if you're showering.
That's right. Exactly.
So
But that's what you
if
want.
you're running the dishwasher,
You wouldn't run it through here. You wouldn't have
then
to.
you're not recovering the heat that you're pumping out from the dishwasher.
That's right. That's right. The dishwasher comes probably in a blast, right? So it's a continuous flow. And again, you should look up that study. It's on my website. I just did the, if you're following my blog, you can find that reference on my blog to that particular paper, but it explains the reasoning for that. Some of it's science, right? So.
He did his doctorate.
Did his doctorate in this stuff. Like imagine spending 5 years studying that piece of tube. It's impressive. Yeah. And CMHC's got a guy that's done everything. He's got, if you want to talk about a light bulb, there's a guy that's studied light bulbs for 5 years too, right? It's an amazing resource that we have. We use a lot of CMHC stuff when we design this house.
So would there not be a way that when you're showering, you could use the water coming through there to the shower, but when you're not showering, it could go to the hot water tank?
Well, that would be the other hookup, right? That would be the other way of hooking it up. The
not
other way is to
now.
put this to the hot water tank. But their study said it reduces your
Right,
total.
but could you not switch it that if you're showering, it goes to the shower, but if you're not showering, it will go to the hot water tank and use the same thing?
If you
Just
had
by
it-
switching a valve, so.
Usually there isn't anything though. Most things in your house, hot water's only going down the drain and into the house at the same time. The shower is the only thing that has both those flows. So for example, the dishwasher, you could hook it up to that, but when it dumps, the hot water's gone and then it sucks in more cold water.
Yeah, it doesn't do it at the same time.
It's not a cross flow.
And it's well explained in that, if you can find that research paper. I was a bit curious about it too, so.
No, probably once I read it, then it'll change
It
things.
clicks pretty quick. Very interesting thing, and this isn't documented anywhere, but it's a theory that I'm working on. The other thing we're doing is we're gonna take that shower water and we're gonna recycle it, right? So typically, I'll start from the top. Your water tank's 135 degrees, you mix some cold water in, you took a shower. If you're my wife, probably 107, 108. If you're me, 105 degrees, a little cooler. By the time the water hits the floor, it's probably just below body temperature, so it's maybe 98. So that's the water that's coming through here. When it comes through here, it takes about 40% of its energy out, so when it gets at the bottom, it's maybe 70 degrees, something like that. But there's still energy in that water, right? It's still hot, it's still warm. So I'm going to use grey water recycling. I'm going to take that hot water and now run it back through the house, through the toilets and stuff. And it'll cool right down to zero before it's gone, right? Or to room temperature before it's gone. So my theory is I'll even absorb more heat back into the house by having it come back through basically the toilet bowls will be mini little heaters. They won't be very warm, but they'll be warmer than the room, right? So
Warm China.
yeah, yeah. So it's just a stretch, but there could be a little more saving to the grey water recycling than we had thought about before when we were just looking at the water slides. Nobody's ever documented that though. When I talked to my mechanical engineering boss, he laughed me right out of his office. So I'm guessing it won't be much value. We'll see.
But you need to have a tank full of it.
Well, there is a tank on the grey water system, right? It holds 45 gallons of grey water, so. Very interesting when I talked to this guy, I said, well, what about baths? He says, what do you mean, what about baths?
Same as the dishwasher.
Well, no, the bath, you get out of the bathtub, you pull the plug, it's gone. He said, train your wife to leave the water until it cools down and it heats the house. If it's the middle of summer, you train your wife to pull the plug right away and it goes out the door where you want it. So pretty smart, I would have never thought of that either.
For that with the bath, oh, well, I've done that for years, even in the sink, I just leave it there till later when it's cool and drink it. But for this, it would be the same as the dishwasher. When you empty the bath water, there'd be no water going through it, so it doesn't catch any of that heat.
There's no water coming the other way, is the thing.
Right.
That's the trick, is the water coming the other way. If there's no water circulating, you don't catch anything.
I guess that's when you turn your dishwasher on, turn the dishwasher on and drain it out.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. I guess that might-
If it's it's something you have to work with if you're gonna